title of this morning's sermon is Homeland for the Christian Mind. Homeland is a word that I don't really think a lot of us had heard much about until the last couple of decades. It's been around a long time. We even now have a department in our government called the Department of Homeland Security. What is a homeland? Fairly simply, a homeland is the place where we make our lives. And when we think of our physical existence, for most of us, maybe all of us, the United States of America is our homeland. That's not what I'm talking about this morning. I'm talking about a homeland for the Christian mind. It is critically important for Christians to keep our thoughts in the homeland of the Christian mind. Let me tell you something. Everybody's mind is going to be set on something. There's not a person here that's thinking about nothing right now. Try to think about nothing. It's pretty much impossible because you're going to be thinking about nothing. We're all thinking about something every waking hour. Every mind is set on something. I suspect most of us have heard the expression, you are what you eat. What we mean by that is that what we put into our body nourishes our body effectively or not. Nutritious food causes us to be more healthy, more fit, more able to go about our daily activities. Bad food is exactly the opposite. It's the same way with our mind. What we put into our mind affects how we live our lives. If we say that we are what we eat physically, I would say that spiritually, we are what we think about. Where you look is generally where you will go. Most of y'all know, it's no big secret, I'm not a good driver. Don't claim to be, don't pretend to be. Y'all know most of the time when you see Stephanie and I together, Stephanie's driving. It's better for everybody, including you. And one of the habits that I have when I drive is if I look off the road, I go the way I'm looking. One reason I keep my eye on the road. But if I see something, I think I see a deer or something over there in a pasture, I want to turn and look. Before you know it, I'm going this way. Or I see something over there. Before I know it, I'm going that way. Where we look is generally where we go. When you have your sermon notes that reference the 101st Psalm, just really one sentence found in the 3rd verse. I will not look with approval on anything that is vile. Vile means nasty, bad, gross, dirty, unhealthy. Vile things can be seen. Vile things can be heard. Vile things can be read. And the psalmist commits, and I invite you to commit, if you want to live a more effective life of service for Jesus, don't look with approval on anything that is vile. Where you look is where you're going to go. Vile things are more readily accessible in our society than ever before. I don't know, I simply don't know if there are more vile things or they're just easier to find in this day of social media, mass communications, and internet and everything else. But I know it's worse than it ever was. Watch television. Watch the leaders in our country. Look at the Republicans. Look at the Democrats. Look at everybody in between. Listen to the words they use. Our president, our congressmen, our senators use language on national TV that we'd have our mouth washed down with soap if we'd have used in elementary school. That certainly would have been true in Ms. Colson's class. And yet it's there. It's acceptable. Look at the movies that are popular. Look at TV shows. Look at magazines. Look at books. They're just full of vile things. And if you want to have Homeland Security in your Christian mind, you need to guard against focusing on any of those vile things. I'm going to tell you that thoughts will become actions. It's about 12 minutes till 12. Been a while since most of us ate breakfast. Some people might be thinking a little bit about lunch. So if you start thinking about it, you're going to get hungry. Maybe you were hungry before, but I guarantee you're hungry now because I'm talking about it and you're thinking about it. And the more you think about it, the more you think how good lunch is going to be. And I suspect most of us, when we leave here, are going to go to lunch somewhere. And if you're thinking about a hamburger, you're probably going to eat a hamburger. If you're thinking about a nutritious salad, maybe you'll go eat a nutritious salad. Thoughts become actions. And as a result of that fact, I'm going to do this personally. And I'm going to encourage each of you also to write Psalm 101 verse 3 on your heart. I will not look with approval on anything that is vile. Okay, that's half the battle. We're not going to look on things that are vile. I told you this is going to be a pretty practical message. How can we walk a closer walk with Jesus? Well, half the battle is what you don't do. We're not going to look at vile things. We're not going to listen to vile things. We're not going to read vile things. But if we stop right there, we just don't have anything. And so what we're going to do is define what is the homeland for the Christian mind. Sean read for us earlier today, Philippians 4th chapter, verses 8 through 9. Paul answers the question. Well, if I'm not going to look favorably on vile things, what am I going to do? We're going to think on things. We're going to have thoughts that are true and noble and right. Truth is the starting point. It's not the ending point. Anybody who's ever participated in raising children, whether it's your own or participated in helping raise somebody else's children, you got to teach those children lots and lots of things. But you know one thing nobody's ever had to teach a child? Never had to teach a child how to lie. That just comes naturally with the fallen human condition. And we don't want to be thinking about things that are false. We don't want to be thinking about things that are lies. We want to think about things that are true. We want to think about things that are noble. Noble doesn't mean like a king or a queen of old-timey times. It's an adjective. A noble thought is a thought of high moral principle. It's a thought that has to do with Christ-like things. We want to think thoughts that are right, that are morally right, that are consistent with what Jesus wants us to be. We want our thoughts to be pure and lovely and admirable. We want beautiful thoughts. We want Christian thoughts to fill our minds. We want our thoughts to be excellent. We want our thoughts to be praiseworthy. And vile thoughts will lead to vile action. And good thoughts will lead to good witness. really is that basic. You are what you eat physically. You will be what you think spiritually. We don't want to focus on vile things. We don't want to look with approval on vile things. Rather, we want our homeland for a Christian mind to consist of thoughts that are true and noble and right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. Remember it is really not a story, it's an actual fact. Talk about how I drive. If I'm looking this way, I'm going this way. If I'm looking this way, I'm going this way. If you're looking at things that are vile, if you're reading things that are vile, if you're thinking about things that are vile, if you're thinking vile thoughts, you're going to be headed in the wrong direction. But if we think these thoughts that Paul encourages us, listen, I can't be more clear than the word. Think about such things. Then we're headed in the right direction. We are not born with a fully formed mind, a fully formed conscience. You may not have to teach a child to lie, but you have to teach a child a lot of things. You have to teach a child good habits. You have to teach them right from wrong. You have to teach them what to do, what not to do. Don't play in the street. Come in, do your homework, eat the food you're supposed to eat, be respectful to other people. A child's life has to be shaped with good teaching. And we are not born again. The day that we become Christians, the day we become Jesus, we're not born with a perfectly formed mind that is going to be a Christian homeland. We have to work at it. And Paul understands that. And in the 9th verse of our text, Paul explains how we train our minds to be a Christian homeland. Truth is learned. It doesn't come naturally. Truth has to be received. You can hear a lot of things that are true, but if you don't accept them, if you don't make them part of your life, if you don't live that way, I'll give you a piece of truth. Fire's hot and it'll burn you. But good to know that. Good to have head knowledge. But if you go sticking your hand in every fire you come around, that knowing the truth ain't going to help you at all. You have to receive the truth. You have to make it part of your life. And knowing what God wants us to be, knowing how God wants us to live our lives is a good start. But we have to take it to heart. We have to apply that truth in our life. Truth can be heard. You're hearing some truth from this lectern this morning, not because I'm saying it, but because God said it. I'm simply showing you what God said. You can learn truth by the spoken word. But you know how else you can learn truth? By observing people's actions. Look what Paul says. Whatever you've learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice. We need to follow the example of those saints whose lives and words are set forth in the Bible. More importantly, we need to put into practice the example that Jesus gave to us. And I'll tell you something else. As we're doing that, our lives can be an example of other people. If somebody followed your example this coming week, would they be moving towards Christ? Would they be moving away? I started by telling you, this is going to be a very practical message, and I hope you agree that it has. We need to have a Christian mind that can be our homeland, where we can be secure, where we can be prosperous spiritually, where we can live lives that are pleasing to God. It doesn't come naturally. It has to be developed. And it is developed when we train our minds through the Word to honor Christ. We're going to sing